The piercing shouts of photographers sent a wave of panic through Willow Hayes as she ducked into the small coffee shop, desperate to escape the relentless lenses following her every move. It had been like this for days, since news of her company's billion-dollar acquisition hit the headlines, transforming her from a relatively private tech innovator into tabloid fodder overnight. Inside the cozy neighborhood cafe, Scott Ingram was having his weekly Friday afternoon treat with his daughter, 7-year-old Lily. These coffee shop visits were sacred, one of the few luxuries he could still afford since losing his job at the architectural firm 8 months ago. Freelance work kept the lights on in their small apartment, but just barely. "Daddy, why are those people yelling outside?" Lily asked, chocolate milk mustache adorning her upper lip as she peered curiously toward the windows. Scott turned to see a slender woman with chestnut hair pulled into a messy bun pressing herself against the wall beside the door, clearly distressed. Through the glass, he could see the mob forming at least a dozen photographers with cameras raised like weapons. "Stay here, sweetie," he said, sliding out of the booth. "Finish your cookie, I'll be right back." Scott approached the woman cautiously. Up close, he noticed her expensive-looking watch and the fine fabric of her blazer, though her wide hazel eyes showed nothing but vulnerability. "Are you okay?" he asked, Willow startled at his voice. "They won't leave me alone," she whispered, her voice quavering slightly. "I just wanted coffee." Scott peered outside again. The paparazzi were setting up camp, waiting for their prey to emerge. He'd seen enough celebrity news to recognize the vulture-like behavior. "Come sit with us," he offered impulsively. "My daughter and I have a booth in the back. You can catch your breath and maybe they'll move on." Relief washed over Willow's face. "That's incredibly kind, thank you." Scott led her to the booth where Lily sat swinging her legs, cookie crumbs speckling her pink t-shirt. "Lily, this is..." He paused, realizing he hadn't asked for her name. "Willow," she supplied with a gentle smile. "I'm Lily," his daughter announced proudly. "I'm 7. "Are those mean people chasing you?" Willow slid into the booth across from Lily. "They're not mean exactly. They just really want to take my picture and sometimes they forget about manners." Scott signaled the barista. "What can I get you?" "Just a black coffee, please." "I can pay. Don't worry about it," Scott insisted, though his bank account protested silently. One coffee wouldn't break him. While Scott ordered, Lily engaged their guest in serious conversation about her school art project and her missing front tooth. By the time he returned with Willow's coffee, his daughter was showing off her collection of colorful erasers shaped like animals. "Your daughter is delightful," Willow said, accepting the steaming mug gratefully. "She's my whole world," Scott replied, ruffling Lily's blonde curls. "I'm Scott, by the way, Scott Ingram." "Nice to meet you both. I'm sorry to crash your..." "Is this a daddy-daughter date?" Willow asked. "Friday tradition," Scott confirmed. "We come here every week after I pick her up from school." Lily nodded enthusiastically. "Daddy lets me have a cookie and chocolate milk, and he gets coffee that smells yucky." Willow laughed, a genuine sound that transformed her tense features. For the first time, Scott noticed how beautiful she was when she wasn't terrified. He felt a strange flutter in his chest that he quickly dismissed. This woman, with her designer clothes and paparazzi problems, moved in completely different circles than his own. "So," Scott ventured, "are you famous or something?" Willow hesitated. "Or something, just some business news." "It'll blow over soon." She seemed reluctant to elaborate, and Scott didn't push. They chatted easily for nearly an hour. Willow asked Lily about school and her friends, showing genuine interest in the child's animated responses. Scott found himself sharing more than he intended his struggle to find steady work after his firm downsized, his efforts to maintain normalcy for Lily after her mother left them 3 years ago. "Architecture is my passion," he explained, "but the market's tough right now. I'm picking up drafting jobs where I can, some renovation consulting. We make it work." Willow listened attentively, asking insightful questions about his design philosophy. There was something refreshing about her interest. It felt genuine, not pitying. Eventually, Scott glanced at his watch. "We should head out. Lily has soccer practice at 5. Willow peered toward the front windows. "They're still out there, 3 of them at least." Scott considered their options. "Our car's just in the back lot. We could create a diversion, or we could just walk out together," Willow suggested. "They're less likely to swarm if I'm with a child. They do have some boundaries." Scott frowned. "I don't want Lily photographed." "Of course," Willow agreed quickly. "You could carry her, keep her face hidden. I'd completely understand if you'd rather not, though. You've already been so kind." Scott looked at Lily, who was now coloring on a paper napkin with crayons the barista had brought over. "What do you think, Lil? Want to help Miss Willow escape the picture people? Like a spy mission?" Lily's eyes widened with excitement. "Can I wear your sunglasses?" 10 minutes later, Scott carried Lily on his hip, her face buried against his shoulder and comically large sunglasses perched on her nose. He placed his free hand protectively at the small of Willow's back as they pushed through the door. The effect was immediate. Cameras clicked rapidly, voices called out for Willow to look their way, but the presence of a child tempered their aggression. Scott stepped slightly in front of Willow, creating a human shield. "Back off," he said firmly when one photographer stepped too close. Something in his tone, perhaps the protective instinct of a father, made the man retreat a step. They made it to Scott's aging Honda Civic without incident. Willow turned to them, genuine gratitude in her eyes. "I can't thank you enough," she said. "Both of you." "It was a spy mission," Lily announced proudly from behind the sunglasses. Willow smiled. "The best spies I've ever worked with." She hesitated, then pulled a business card from her pocket. "If you ever need anything architecture connections, a reference, anything, please call me. I mean it." Scott accepted the card, noticing only Willow Hayes and a phone number. No company name or title. He tucked it into his wallet. "Take care of yourself, Willow," he said, surprised by how much he meant it. As they drove away, Lily waved enthusiastically from the back seat. In the rearview mirror, Scott watched Willow slip into a sleek black car that had pulled up to the curb. Definitely not his world, he thought. "I liked her, Daddy," Lily declared. "She didn't talk to me like I'm a baby." "She seemed nice," Scott agreed, pushing away the strange feeling of connection he'd felt. Tomorrow, he'd return to hunting for architectural jobs, and Willow Hayes would return to whatever life had earned her a paparazzi entourage. He didn't expect to hear from her again. 3 days later, Scott was struggling through another frustrating job search session at his kitchen table when his phone rang with an unknown number. "Scott, it's Willow Hayes. From the coffee shop?" Her voice sounded different, more confident, professional. "I hope you don't mind me calling." "Not at all," he replied, surprised. "Everything okay? No more paparazzi problems?" "They've mostly moved on to more interesting targets," she said with a light laugh. "Listen, I have a proposition for you. I was serious about helping with architecture connections. My company is renovating a historical building downtown for our new headquarters, and we're not entirely happy with the current plans. Would you be interested in consulting? It would be paid, of course." Scott's heart raced. A consulting gig for a major renovation could be exactly the break he needed. "I'd definitely be interested. What company is this, exactly?" There was a pause on the line. "Hayes Innovation Technologies. We're a sustainable tech development firm." The name clicked immediately. Scott nearly dropped the phone. Hayes Innovation Technologies was a multi-billion-dollar company that had been in the news constantly lately for their groundbreaking carbon capture technology. And Willow Hayes wasn't just an employee, she was the founder and CEO. "You're that Willow Hayes," he said, stunned, "the billionaire tech innovator." "I prefer engineer who got lucky," she replied, a hint of discomfort in her voice. "Is that going to be a problem?" Scott gathered his thoughts. "No, not a problem, just surprising. Why me?" "You could hire any architect in the country." "I saw your portfolio online," she admitted. "Your emphasis on sustainable materials and natural light is exactly what we value, and I liked how you treated your daughter. It says something about a person. Scott's mind raced with possibilities. This could be the opportunity that turned everything around for him and Lily. "When would you want to meet?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Is tomorrow too soon? We could do lunch at the site, see what you think of the space." The next day, Scott found himself standing in the soaring atrium of a 1920s former bank building, sunlight streaming through massive windows onto marble floors. Willow greeted him wearing jeans and a simple blouse, a far cry from the power suits he'd expected. "This place is incredible," Scott said, turning slowly to take in the ornate ceiling details. "The possibilities are endless." "That's exactly what I thought," Willow replied, watching him with interest. "The current plans don't preserve enough of the original character." For the next 2 hours, they walked the space together, Scott's architect's mind racing with ideas. He sketched concepts on a notepad as they talked, forgetting momentarily who Willow was and focusing purely on the creative challenge. "These are brilliant," Willow said, studying his rough sketches over sandwiches in what would become the employee cafe. "Especially this central staircase design. It honors the original architecture while creating the collaborative spaces we need." Scott felt a flush of professional pride. "I'd need to develop these further, run some structural calculations. I want to hire you," Willow interrupted. "Not as a consultant, as our lead architect for this project." Scott stared at her. That's a major project. My firm closed, I'm working independently, perfect." "Less red tape." Willow leaned forward. "I trust your vision, Scott, and I'm prepared to offer a contract that would make it worth your while." When she named the figure, Scott nearly choked on his sandwich. It was enough to stabilize his finances for at least a year, possibly 2. "I'd need flexibility for Lily," he said cautiously. "School pickup, her activities. We can accommodate that. I believe in work-life balance." Willow smiled. "Hayes Innovation is different from most tech companies. We value humans, not just productivity." Scott took a deep breath. "Then I'm in." Over the following weeks, Scott immersed himself in the headquarters redesign. He established a small office in the building, working alongside Willow's team of engineers and designers. The project was challenging and exhilarating, exactly the kind of work he'd always dreamed of doing. Willow proved to be a thoughtful client and an even better boss. She valued his expertise, championed his ideas to the board, and never questioned when he needed to leave for Lily's school events. Sometimes, she even joined their Friday coffee shop tradition, much to Lily's delight. "Miss Willow, are you coming to my soccer game tomorrow?" Lily asked one Friday afternoon, chocolate milk mustache in place as usual. Willow glanced at Scott, clearly checking if the invitation was appropriate. When he nodded with a smile, she turned back to Lily. "I would love to." "Thank you for inviting me." Scott found himself increasingly drawn to Willow. Beyond her obvious beauty, he admired her brilliant mind and compassionate leadership style. She treated the maintenance staff with the same respect she showed to executives. And the way she connected with Lily touched something deep within him, but he kept his growing feelings carefully contained. Willow Hayes was his client, his billionaire client, and he was a struggling single dad still trying to rebuild his career. The first complication arose 2 months into the project. Scott arrived at the site one morning to find Willow in an intense discussion with a well-dressed man he didn't recognize. "Scott," Willow called, waving him over. "Perfect timing. This is Warren Phillips from Elevation Partners. They're interested in investing in our expansion." Warren offered a firm handshake. "Willow was just showing me your remarkable designs. Very impressive work." "Thank you," Scott replied, noting the way Warren stood slightly too close to Willow. Something territorial flickered inside him, which he immediately tried to suppress. "Warren has invited us to the charity gala at the Art Museum this weekend," Willow explained. "It would be a good opportunity to network with potential clients for you." "Us?" Scott asked. "You're the creative genius behind our new headquarters," Willow said with a warm smile. "People should know your name." The idea of attending a high society function filled Scott with dread. "I appreciate that, but I don't think I have anything to wear to something like that." "And I'd need to find a sitter for Lily. Bring her," Willow suggested. "It's a family-friendly event. There's a children's program with art activities and a movie." Warren raised an eyebrow. "You're bringing your daughter to the gala." "Is that a problem?" Willow asked coolly. "Not at all," Warren backtracked quickly. "Just unexpected." After Warren left, Scott turned to Willow. "You don't have to include Lily and me in these events. I know it's not really our world." Willow's expression softened. "Maybe I want you both there because I enjoy your company." "Is that so hard to believe?" The warmth in her eyes made Scott's heart skip. "We'd be honored to attend," he found himself saying. That Saturday evening, Scott stared at himself in the mirror, adjusting the tie of the only suit he owned purchased years ago for job interviews. Lily twirled around their small living room in a purple dress that had been a birthday gift from his sister. "Do I look fancy enough, Daddy?" she asked anxiously. Scott knelt down to her level. "You look absolutely beautiful, sweetheart. Just remember what we talked about. Use your indoor voice, stay where I can see you, and don't tell anyone that Miss Willow let me try her fancy computer last week," Lily recited. "Because it was a special secret." Scott smiled. Willow had shown Lily a prototype of their new educational software, treating the child's feedback with genuine consideration. It was one of many moments that had endeared her to them both. When Willow's driver arrived to collect them, Lily could barely contain her excitement at riding in the luxurious car. Scott, however, grew increasingly nervous as they approached the museum, its facade illuminated with spotlights and red carpet extending from the entrance. "Relax," Willow said softly, noticing his tension as they pulled up. "Just be yourself. That's more than enough." She looked stunning in an elegant emerald dress, her hair swept up in an intricate style. Scott tried not to stare, reminding himself again of the vast differences in their circumstances. Inside, the museum had been transformed into a glittering wonderland. After Lily was safely settled in the children's program, Scott found himself introduced to architects he'd admired for years, potential clients interested in sustainable design, and investors curious about the Hayes Innovation Headquarters. "Your work is exceptional," one prominent developer told him. "We should discuss our upcoming hotel project." Scott was overwhelmed by the positive response. Throughout the evening, Willow remained close by, subtly guiding conversations and ensuring he met the right people. When they reunited with Lily for dinner, Willow made sure the child was included, asking about her art projects and listening intently to her excited descriptions. Later, as a string quartet played and couples took to the dance floor, Scott watched Willow charming a group of investors. She glanced over, caught his eye, and excused herself to join him. "Having fun?" she asked. "It's incredible," Scott admitted. "I've gotten 3 potential job offers tonight," Willow beamed. "I knew they'd recognize your talent." "Thank you for this opportunity," Scott said sincerely. "For all of it." Their eyes met, and something shifted between them, an acknowledgement of feelings that had been building for weeks. "Would you like to dance?" Willow asked softly. The question hung between them, laden with meaning beyond a simple dance. Scott hesitated, glancing at Lily, who was happily decorating cookies at the children's table. "She'll be fine for a few minutes," Willow assured him. "We can see her from the dance floor." Scott took Willow's hand and led her to the floor. As they moved together, he was acutely aware of the whispers and glances from onlookers. "Everyone's watching us," he murmured. "Let them," Willow replied, holding his gaze. "I don't care what they think." "Willow," Scott began cautiously, "I've been trying to keep things professional, but I need to be honest. I'm attracted to you, not your money or your company, just you. But our worlds are so different, are they?" she interrupted. "We both value hard work, integrity, family." "Those seem like the same world to me." Before Scott could respond, Warren appeared beside them, his smile tight. "Willow, the mayor wants to discuss the Innovation District. Could I steal you away? Willow's expression cooled. Actually, I'm in the middle of a dance. Warren's gaze flickered dismissively over Scott. This potential investor won't wait forever. Neither will I, Willow replied firmly. I'll find the mayor later. After Warren stormed off, Scott sighed. That's what I mean. People like him see me as an employee at best, an opportunist at worst. People like him don't matter to me, Willow said, her voice low and intense. Scott, I've spent years surrounded by people who wanted something from me. Do you know how rare it is to find someone who treated me like a normal person when I was hiding from paparazzi? Who offered help without knowing I could afford to buy the entire coffee shop? The music ended, but they remained close, caught in the gravity of the moment. Before either could speak again, Lily appeared at their side, yawning dramatically. Daddy, I'm tired, she announced, rubbing her eyes. The spell broken, Scott lifted his daughter. Time to get this princess home. In the car, Lily fell asleep against Scott's shoulder while he and Willow talked quietly about the evening. When they arrived at his modest apartment building, Willow insisted on walking them to the door. Thank you for coming tonight, she said as Scott shifted the sleeping Lily in his arms. It was amazing, he replied honestly, but I should get her to bed. Willow nodded, then impulsively leaned forward and kissed his cheek. Good night, Scott. He watched her return to the car, feeling both elated and confused by the growing complexity of their relationship. The next morning, Scott was making pancakes when his phone rang. Willow's name flashed on the screen. I hope I'm not calling too early, she said when he answered. Not at all. Lily and I were just discussing whether pancakes taste better in dinosaur or spaceship shapes. Willow laughed. A critical debate. Listen, I'm calling because there's something I didn't get to say last night. Would you and Lily like to come to my place for lunch today? Nothing fancy, just... I'd like to talk outside of work. Scott hesitated. Are you sure? Sunday is your only real day off. I'm sure, she replied softly. Willow's place turned out to be a stunning modern house nestled against a hillside with walls of glass overlooking the city. But despite its grandeur, it felt surprisingly homey inside bookshelves overflowing with engineering texts and novels, comfortable furniture, family photos. She greeted them casually in jeans and a sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. I made sandwiches, she announced. Nothing special, I'm afraid. Cooking isn't my strongest skill. We brought cookies, Lily declared, proudly holding up a container. Daddy and I baked them this morning. Willow accepted them with genuine delight. My favorite. After lunch, Willow showed Lily her garden with its small pond full of goldfish, then set her up with an educational game on a tablet while she and Scott moved to the patio. This isn't what I expected, Scott admitted, looking around at the surprisingly understated home. No mansion, no staff. I grew up in a small apartment with my dad, Willow explained, settling into a chair beside him. He was a high school science teacher who raised me alone after my mom died. All this. She gestured to the house, still feels strange sometimes. Scott studied her with new understanding. You never mentioned that. Most people just see the Billionaire headline and stop looking deeper, she said with a shrug. I was a nerdy kid who loved taking things apart. My carbon capture technology started as a science fair project. Then things just exploded. That's why you're so good with Lily, Scott realized. You know what it's like to be raised by a single dad, Willow nodded. My father was my hero. He worked so hard to give me opportunities, just like you do for Lily. She took a deep breath, which brings me to what I wanted to discuss. I'm developing feelings for you, Scott, strong ones. And it's complicated by our working relationship, I know that. If you don't feel the same way, we can pretend this conversation never happened. Scott's heart thundered in his chest. I feel the same way, he admitted. But I worry about the differences in our lives. The scrutiny, what people would say. That I'm dating you for your architectural brilliance? She teased gently. Scott laughed despite himself. You know what I mean. I don't want to be seen as taking advantage. And I need to consider Lily in all this. I adore Lily, Willow said simply, and I respect your concerns. All I'm asking is a chance to see where this could go, at whatever pace feels right." Scott reached for her hand, a decision forming in his mind. "I'd like that." Over the next several months, they moved forward cautiously. Scott insisted on paying his own way when possible, and they spent as much time at his apartment as at her house. Lily flourished under Willow's additional attention, the two of them bonding over science experiments and art projects. The headquarters project progressed beautifully, establishing Scott's reputation in the architectural community. Other commissions followed, allowing him to hire 2 junior architects and establish his own small firm. Not everything was smooth. The tabloids eventually caught wind of their relationship, publishing photos and speculative articles about the billionaire and the single dad. Scott's ex-wife suddenly reappeared, expressing interest in spending time with Lily after years of minimal contact, a development that caused significant stress, until Willow helped him secure a family lawyer who established clear child-centered visitation parameters. Through it all, their connection deepened. Scott came to appreciate Willow's brilliant mind and compassionate heart, while she found in him a partner who valued her for herself, not her success or wealth. 1 year after their first coffee shop encounter, Scott took Willow back to the same cafe for their Friday tradition with Lily. As his daughter happily sipped her chocolate milk, Scott slid a small blueprint across the table. Willow unfolded it curiously, then gasped. It was a beautifully rendered design for a treehouse, elaborate but achievable, with a reading nook, telescope platform, and space for science experiments. "What's this?" she asked. "Lily and I were thinking it might be nice to build at your place," Scott explained, his heart racing. "If you're okay with us being there more permanently," Willow's eyes widened as she understood his meaning. "Daddy wants us to live with you," Lily clarified helpfully, chocolate milk mustache in place. "I said yes already." "Did you now?" Willow laughed, tears shimmering in her eyes. "We can take it slow," Scott assured her. "Maybe start with some of our things at your place, see how it feels. I just know that I love you, and this past year has shown me that our different backgrounds don't matter nearly as much as what we share." Willow reached across the table, taking both his hands in hers. "I love you both so much. Yes, absolutely yes." "Can we start building the treehouse tomorrow?" Lily asked excitedly. Scott and Willow exchanged amused glances. "How about we start by moving some of your toys over first?" Scott suggested. Later that evening, after Lily was asleep, Scott and Willow stood on her patio overlooking the city lights. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, marveling at the journey that had brought them together. "A year ago, I was struggling to pay rent, and you were hiding from paparazzi," he murmured against her hair. "Now look at us." Willow turned in his arms. "Best coffee shop encounter ever. Even though I had no idea you were a billionaire," he teased. "Especially because of that," she replied, her expression growing serious. "You saw me when I was just a woman needing help. No agenda, no angle. Do you know how precious that is?" Scott kissed her tenderly. "I still just see you, the amazing woman who somehow loves my dinosaur pancakes and puts up with my daughter's science experiments destroying the kitchen." "Our kitchen now," Willow corrected with a smile. "Our family." As they sealed the promise with another kiss, Scott reflected on the unexpected path that had led him here. A simple act of kindness in a coffee shop had changed everything, proving that sometimes the most valuable things in life couldn't be measured in dollars, only in love.